Welcome into a Week 13 Packers defensive breakdown of their game against the Detroit Lions. This was a big division win, 31-24. But overall, looking at the film, it was an up and down performance. The Lions, they found ways to attack this Packers defense, and they continuously went back to those same concepts. So let's dive into the film, see what the Packers did well and what hurt them. The first play we're going to look at is a 3rd and 8. And this is just great pressure from this Packers defense. You're going to get pressure off the edge from McKinney, pressure up the middle from McDuffie. And this is very close to a sack fumble. Goff just moving his arm forward. Ball ends up in front of the line of scrimmage. But of course, there's no intentional grounding because we have really no clue where his intended target is. He is probably throwing more towards the seam in the middle of the field. It's just he's got two guys in his face. Parsons with a good reflex of picking that ball up, but a big 3rd down stop early in the game. And we'll take a closer look from the end zone angle because this is very, very close to being a fumble. McDuffie, I think the Lions offensive line was a mess. Having Frank Ragnow come back is going to be huge for them, but they completely mess up this protection, right? You've got a slide. They're accounting for these 3 defenders, but obviously Parsons is going to drop out. That's going to leave McDuffie free up the middle, forces Gibbs to step up. And if you've got edge pressure on top of that, there's just no way that they're going to be able to block this up. And this, slow it down frame by frame. I don't know how you rule that his arm is going forward. The only reason his arm is going forward is because of the whiplash, because McKinney gets on the inside of his arm. So it looks like his arm is pushing that ball forward. But to me, no bias, but that should be a fumble for sure. Next play, a 1st and 10. Just going to watch this play. This is a huge play for the Packers, and it's really just because of an injury. You know, Gibbs does a good job here of navigating through all these bodies that are falling over, and he's able to get upfield, but those bodies falling over is going to cause issues for St. Brown, who's engaged in a block, right? Gets his ankle rolled up on, but that's going to change the Lions' game plan throughout this one. And we're going to see that they're going to be using similar formations. You've got personnel issues, and we'll see that on the next play. So now with St. Brown out, you've got a lot of things that are changing. Here, you've got 2 guys that would be considered on the line of scrimmage. You're going to have motions and movement all throughout this play, and we'll just watch that to get a motion. Get the shift. Now he realizes, hey, I shouldn't be on the ball. Now you've got him realizing, oh, I shouldn't be on the ball. But then you're going to get these 2 guys that are essentially, they're basically at the same level. Right? He's at the same level of the tackle and the guard, essentially. So they're considering him on the ball. And that's going to create an illegal formation in the end. And then you've got this shift here. Right, so now you've got too many guys that are at that same level on the ball. So all these moving parts with different personnel going to result in illegal formations, and they had multiple this week. So unfortunate for the Lions offense with that injury. On a 1st and 15 after that penalty, you're going to have good pursuit from these linebackers and really good job avoiding these blocks. Right, McDuffie able just to sidestep, and then Cooper using his speed to get out in front. And I just love the downhill pursuit. Able to make contact behind the line of scrimmage for a short loss on that play. But it's just really nice job early in the game. They pin pull here. All right, they're going to pin Gary on the inside. They pulled a tackle. He's not able to get too much on Cooper. And then you've got McKinney playing that force on the outside, and they converge and make the tackle with guys running in behind. So really nice job early in the game from the Packers in their run pursuit. Then on that same possession, 3rd and 15, you've got Enagbare, who is here. You got Parsons. Both of these guys are going to make a great play on this one. Enagbare converting speed to power on Penei Sewell. Does a good job getting upfield and then getting to the same level as Goff. Right? So Goff is standing in that pocket. Parsons gets there first. Right? He wraps around. Coming from that middle linebacker position. He's one-on-one with a guard with a little bit of a chip help from the running back, but able to converge and get that sack. So I think that Enagbare had a pretty decent game. And you will see that with a few of his other snaps later in this one. This is a type of play that you will see over and over in this game if you watch the film. Just you have a lot of crossers. Here you've essentially got a cover 3, deep third, deep third, deep third. You've got McKinney who's buzzing down. And being that outside leverage, there's no way that Nixon's going to be able to cover either one of these crossers that's going over the middle of the field. And Goff is able to find Jamison Williams for a big gain of 22 yards. Of course, you'd love to see, Valentine keep his eyes and recognize, right? You had a simple kind of stick concept down here, right? Stick, flat. And then you've got a double crosser coming over the middle of the field. So you'd like Valentine to get his eyes more towards the middle of the field to try to help poach on that. But of course, Nixon not able to take advantage of that poor leverage to make a play on this one. Then we've got Enagbare, as I mentioned, has a pretty good game. We'll also look at one of his negative plays, but here he is on this end around, getting upfield, recognizing, right? He sees him turn around. He just gets in the way, gets a hand on Jamison Williams, and then you have the pursuit of the defense. You got 4 guys flying to the football, and that's a tackle for loss for this Packers defense. So Enagbare had a few big plays, and then we'll also look at one of his negative plays. All right, here we are looking at Wyatt. He's going to be a huge loss for this Packers team. Obviously, we'll see his injury later on, but Gibbs, he's a hard man to take down. And you've got Wyatt and Gary who are talking to each other here because they mess up. And you've got Gary looking at Wyatt like, "Hey man, what's going on? Why are you falling on top of me?" But at least Wyatt is able to recognize, hey, this play is still happening. He gets up. He's going to cause Gibbs to slip because he tries to put that foot in the dirt and get upfield. Right? But good second effort there by Wyatt, recognizing, hey, this play is not over. I got to get back in it. You'd like to see that from Gary as well. But of course, able to get a tackle for loss there from a good team effort by this Packers defense. Here the Packers are going to play an invert Tampa 2. You get pressure on the inside with Parsons trying to attack that interior of the defense. He's not able to get home in time because that seam is just wide open. That invert Tampa 2, he's going to be your middle read defender. You've got a deep half here, but that's going to expose those seams, right? Because it's hard to have outside leverage. And if you get 2 vertical routes on one player, right, that's going to leave you in a bind. He's starting to drift here, so that seam is going to be wide open. And there's no way that because you have this sit down in front of this middle read defender who's reading that number 3, it's going to be very hard for him to make it across and adjust for that seam. And you can see he gets there late, but really good play call by the Lions on that one, anticipating that they would get some sort of cover 2 look, and they're attacking that seam just perfectly. Get a little bit more man later in the game, and this is going to make it tough. You've got this small stack, right? So they're playing a little bit of depth, right? They'll essentially take whoever goes vertical is going to go with 24. Whoever stays underneath is going to be picked up by Bullard. And that's going to be tough with an inside release and a crosser. And there's just going to be too much space. And you're going to see this crosser over and over throughout the game. Jameson Williams had a pretty decent day against this Packers defense. But the Lions found a formula that was working, that was moving the ball downfield. The Packers weren't able to adjust. You've got corners that I don't think have the speed necessarily to stay with Jameson Williams. So as long as this Lions offensive line could give Goff some time, those crossers would be open consistently throughout this one. Then the film continues to get worse for Valentine. He's probably not going to have a good day in the film room, and this is just going to be, a missed tackle that's going to create issues. And all it is just fundamentals, wrap up. If he wraps up, this is a tackle for loss. And Lions are going to have to go for a field goal because there's 20 seconds left on the clock. All right, so that missed tackle, then the good blocks downfield. All right, tackle able to seal Enigbare on the outside. That gives a nice lane for Jameson Williams to walk in for a score. So, just small things like this. 3rd and 3. If you make that tackle for a loss, it's a 4th down, 4th and 5, 4th and 6. And they're going to have to settle for a field goal. But of course, they end up scoring. So that's a 4-point swing. So tiny details matter in the NFL. All right, next play, we're going to focus on McDuffie. He had a pretty solid game overall. Here he's going to kind of slice in, and the O-line is a little bit too late. He's just shooting that gap. He's being aggressive, able to make first contact. That's a really nice job by McDuffie. Obviously wasn't perfect in this game, but filling in for Quay Walker, I think he did a reasonable job. This is one of his highlights. And obviously you have the next play, which is going to be a 4th down stop. But that is a really nice job on a 3rd and 2. That's keeping the Lions within that limit of wanting to go for it on 4th down. So that's a huge play for the Packers. Obviously didn't show the 4th and 2 or 4th and 3. But here you've got Micah Parsons. One of his issues is he'll freestyle, right? He's not always going to be that outside contain guy. So here he feels like he can win inside, and that's going to create an issue for this Packers defense. So he goes inside, but now if we look at all the routes, you've got that crosser, the dig coming over, you've got the clear, you've got the spot, right? So everything is moving towards this side of the field. So that's just going to open up a bunch of green grass. And even though Goff isn't, the most insane athlete, he's able to get at least a 1st down, a 24-yard run, all because of a lack of contain by Micah Parsons. We've been talking about Enigbare generally having a good game. I don't really understand what he's trying to do. I think he anticipates that this is going to be a run towards his side, and he's trying to mess with Sewell, because if he's got his plan that he's going to take this first guy to his right, Enigbare is going to try to jump inside and then slice on the inside, but he's going to lose his footing, right? And Sewell ends up taking him anyways, and that's just going to create this massive gap. But this play was flipped, I believe, as well by Goff. I don't know if I got it on my version of the clip, but you can just see that the numbers, you've got all these guys on this side of the football, and then you've got 1, 2, 3 out here. So simple numbers game. We've got an uncovered lineman. He's just going to go up and take the backer. You're just going to ISO these, and then a fullback is going to take the first threat. So, numbers game isn't there in the Packers' favor, and you're going to get a big gain for a first down from the Lions. I think this play was frustrating for Packers fans because there was so much time in the pocket. We'll just see. You've got a play action, a two-man route concept, and he's going to be finding space. And I think just the flaw here, the Packers love playing quarters in the red zone, and here they are playing quarters again. The problem is McKinney, I don't think he had the greatest game. He's got his eyes on the quarterback, right? But we've got just a two-man concept. You've got a post here, and then you've got this high cross coming underneath, and he's just going to get behind McKinney. And for some reason, he's going the other way. I think McKinney outplayed himself, thinking that, oh, hey, Goff is looking towards the left. Right? He's looking towards the left, which means he's going to switch back and he's going to throw it to the right. And McKinney is running off to the right. There's nobody out there. And Tesla's just going to be wide open for an easy touchdown. All because we're too reliant on watching the quarterback's eyes. And again, I just think that this is not a great play by McKinney. Evan Williams, in terms of the safety play recently, has been significantly better than McKinney. McKinney is still a very good player, but he hasn't been playing the same as he was last year. And then, obviously, the Packers are not going to get any pressure. They rush 4, and you had the tight end stay into chip. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 offensive linemen that are in the game. So you've got 4 on 6. That is not a very good matchup. So, of course, they're not going to get home. And Tesla's able to find that space behind the defense for an easy score. As I mentioned on the previous play, Evan Williams is playing very good football. And you'll see that here. Just downhill, recognizing the play. It's a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. And he's just going to fire down into this gap and make a play. Right? He's supposed to be picked up by this receiver. But because he's firing down, there's no way for that receiver to make that play. Evan Williams makes first contact. And then you've got 3 more guys joining in to make a stop. And that obviously puts this Lions defense into 4th and 3. And I think this is a really good play call. You've got man coverage, essentially, with pressure coming. And this drag right at the sticks is going to get Jameson Williams wide open. He has a good release off the line. He's wide open. If he catches that, that's a first down. Lions probably go down and score a touchdown. But he drops it. And that's 0 for 2 on 4th down in this game. And that was the difference. Packers went 3 for 3 on 4th down. Lions went 0 for 2. There, they could have taken the points. Might have made things a little bit different in terms of the approach by both teams. But that is a bad drop in that situation. In the last few plays, obviously, it's 31-21. It's going to be pass rushing situations for the rest of the game, for the most part. And this is where Parsons is going to excel. That is just such a fast move. Right? Feigns inside, goes outside. There's just nothing Decker that can do in that situation. Right? Gets by. Goff has no idea that he's there. That's a big hit for Parsons for a sack. Then we got the next play. We're going to focus on Enagbare down here at the bottom. This is a 3rd and 15. 3rd and 15. Got to have, pressure on this down. And he's just bull rushing 2 guys all the way back to the quarterback, getting through, getting a nice sack. And you got good coverage across the field. But you do have down here at the bottom of the screen a really bad call. And the only reason this gets called for illegal contact is because this receiver cuts into the middle of the field. If he just continues in a straight line, they don't call this a penalty. But because he is trying to get to the inside, they're throwing this penalty, because Nixon has a right to his ground, right? So he's able to stay straight. He's able to make contact if the receiver runs straight into him. But now, because he's trying to go inside, that could be considered that he's impeding his route. Right? That's why that flag comes in now, because he broke to the inside. I know a lot of people aren't happy with it, but with the way that the rule is written up, if he goes straight, he's not impeding his route because the receiver ran straight into him. But because he breaks this off on the inside, that ref deemed that he was impeding his route. Therefore, they throw the flag. Not a great penalty in that situation. On a 3rd and 15, takes away a sack, and completely changes this game. But of course, I just want to look from the end zone angle. Enigbare just fighting through, right? Tries to beat him upfield, and then just switches. Hey, I'm going to get inside. Keeps going. And he's able to get through that tiny crevice to get to Goff for a sack. So really nice job there, despite the penalty. And here is the last play for the Packers defense in this game. And we're just going to pay attention to Parsons. You'll notice that they like to kind of overload one side, and usually that means you're going to get some sort of wrap or loop. And here, that's exactly what you get. Gets upfield. That's really unfortunate for Wyatt in this situation. Obviously done for the year with a broken ankle. But Parsons getting his second sack, 2.5 sacks on this game, second full sack. And he just gets there with so much speed. There's just nothing that they can do in this situation. Right, Brinson does a good job of occupying two offensive linemen there. Right, obviously 69, Ratledge falls down. And that's just going to clear free space for Parsons, who moves very quickly, laterally, and up the field. And there's just nothing that Goff can do, and they end up having to settle for a field goal on the next play, which makes it 31-24. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Obviously, Packers walk away with a win, so I'm happy with that defensive performance overall. But now with the Wyatt injury, you're going to need some guys to step up on that defensive interior. You at least have 10 days rest before you take on the Chicago Bears, who obviously beat the Philadelphia Eagles. So this is going to be a very important game coming up against the Bears. Hopefully, the Packers are able to convert on their pressures, because Caleb Williams has looked pretty good at avoiding pressures, avoiding sacks, and extending plays. And that's been very helpful for the Bears. And then you also have the run game, which has been working. You have this, 2-back system with Swift and Monangai that has been working well for the Bears. So it'll be an interesting challenge for sure. Packers at least get a home game, so they're playing at Lambeau Field. Hopefully that is going to be the difference in this one, getting a slight home field advantage against the Bears. And hopefully the Packers can continue this run of being undefeated in the division, because that would go a long way in securing the division for this year. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.